World Cup 2011. Our team.
Dan Carter, thank you so much for your time. Arguably the greatest first five ever to play the game. I'll just rattle through a couple of stats here. Top All Blacks point scorer of all time, two-time Rugby World Cup winner, three-time World Rugby Player of the Year, won multiple club titles both here and overseas in France and Japan. As I said, it's largely agreed that, yeah, the best first five to ever play the game. When you look back on your career, what are the sort of memories that stick out for you?
Oh, Matt, you missed probably one of the biggest milestones, to be honest, and that was the Coleman Shield that I got in my last ever game of rugby for Southbridge.
How could I forget?
Come on, mate, that's my childhood club. My family still live around the corner from the club room. That's where I played my first ever game of rugby as a 6-year-old. Played there until I was 17, and then to finish my playing career for Southbridge and finally picking up the hallowed Coleman Shield was a real highlight. But
and I've heard all about the celebrations that went on after that game and all the memorabilia that's locked away at the club.
It holds a special place in my heart, and it's the same for all us rugby players. We always gravitate to our community, and that's what makes New Zealand rugby so strong. Is that community rugby. We're all really loyal to our amateur club that gave us our first start, or it might even be your local high school that you went to as well. So it was a pretty special moment.
I guess in terms of you inspiring others, it was through those big moments in your career. And someone in the All Black environment actually shared this quote with me, and they said it's, what makes a player great is that when it really counts, in the biggest moments, they can really deliver. And I'm quite interested in digging into how it is you got to that point where you could handle those moments. And talk us through that journey.
If you're wanting to strive to be not just an All Black, but an All Black great, you're going to have to play in the biggest moments. And I was lucky enough in my first year in 2003, in my career, we had a Rugby World Cup. And I was a young, sort of naive 21-year-old. I knew Rugby World Cups were important, but I didn't know the extent of how important until we got knocked out in the semi-final against Australia. And I was looking around the changing room at some of my heroes, and in particular the guys that knew that was their last opportunity to play in a World Cup. Guys at the end of their career, and they were in tears, they were distraught about being knocked out and not going on to achieve our goal of winning that World Cup. And something was ingrained in me then as well as going, right, I want to be part of the team in 4 years' time and perform really well in that World Cup. So all of a sudden I knew the extent of being able to perform in the biggest moments. But it wasn't just a matter of clicking your fingers and you could perform. There's so much work, preparation that needs to go in to help you, be successful in those moments. So, those big moments, they don't come around, and it's almost not until, you step up in some of those key moments. And I felt like I did that through the Lions series and the first 2 test matches that I played. But to be honest, I was young, naive, just playing with such freedom, and was playing in a pretty freakish team. In 2005, it was made easy for me by having such the quality of players and calibre around me. But the one sort of key moment in my career after a really long journey was my last game in the All Black jersey in 2015 Rugby World Cup final, where I was now 10 years older than I was in that boy in 2005, and my game was completely different. So from a really strong running game, playing with such freedom, just backing my instincts, just kind of going with the flow, so to speak, to 2015, where everything was very calculated. I was very calm, I was very clear, I was very precise. I knew exactly what I needed to do, and then I had the experience and the confidence to execute in those high-pressure situations. I think if the game in 2005 against the Lions was really close, I don't know if I would have had that experience to deal with that pressure in that moment. But thankfully, we flogged them, and it was all really rewarding from the work that we'd done. But you think about 2015, even though we ended up beating Australia, there was a moment in that game where Ben Smith got yellow carded, and the momentum of the game completely shifted in Australia's favour. They came back, scored 2 tries, really close on the scoreboard, And through my experience of playing for so long, yes, my personal purpose that was driving me, the team's purpose that we'd set back in 2011, for the squad as well, all of that was driving us towards this moment. So when that momentum did change, I knew that there was a couple of key moments in that game that I needed to nail to help the momentum get shifted back to us. And that pressure, I thrived on that. At that stage of my career, I'd learned so much about the mental side of the game and, embracing, enhancing, walking towards pressure, the ability to control my mind when I was taken off task, going from, red head back to a blue head where I'm calm and clear. And I thrived on those moments. And thankfully there was one touch finder that I felt like the energy of the boys changed, and definitely did in my mind. Okay, I think we've got a bit of momentum back here. And then about 2 minutes later after that, kick to touch, I snapped a drop goal as well, and I saw the body language of the team rise again. Okay, yeah, right. The momentum's back in our favour now. All we've got to do is finish the job, and we did that. That last sort of 15, 20 minutes was a really dominant, performance from the team. So once again, I think the thing that I learned was, a lot of it was, I knew from the day that I became an All Black that I wanted to be an All Black great, and I had to evolve my game and really nail key parts of my career. And the most satisfying thing was I was able to, in key moments, and in particular that last one in 2015.
So the period where those back-to-back World Cups were won was a real golden era for the All Blacks, but the foundations for that run were laid way back near the start of your career. Are you able to talk about the transformation? I'm talking about 2004 and what you sort of witnessed happen to that environment.
Yeah, 2004 was a very special moment for the All Blacks. So when I arrived in the squad, the team started playing professional rugby in 2003. The game had been professional for 7 or 8 years, and there was a bit of a crossover of some of the traits of the amateur days were still part of the professional era, and things could have been done better. And we went through, obviously 2003 was an unsuccessful World Cup for us. We changed the coaches to Graham Henry, Steve Hansen and Wayne Smith, a world-class trio. We had some immediate success early 2004, and then as the year went on, some of the old amateur habits came into the environment, and so we had a really unsuccessful and a really poor Tri-Nations, and just felt like the culture wasn't where it should be in the professional era. So a lot of changes were made before the end of year tour in November. So some of the leadership group and management came together to really try and build this All Black culture. What is it that's going to drive us forward? And one of the first things we did actually is we look back. We look back at the people, the All Blacks that had gone before us, the iconic teams. You think of the Originals, 1905, you think of the Invincibles, 1924, you think of the 87 World Cup team, even the 96 team that won over in South Africa as well. You think of your George Napiers, your Colin Meads. So we started celebrating our history and started to learn a little bit of our history, and we realised we can use that to fuel us, but we wanted to add our legacy. We wanted to enhance the legacy that had gone before us. And that was a big part of the reason why Kapa o Pango came about as well. It wasn't to kind of shove it to Kamiti's face. It's like, no, we're adding to the legacy, we're enhancing the legacy. We have full respect for Kamiti, and Kapa o Pango is more about us, who we are as a people, culture, All Black side. But just, we gave Kamiti a brother, so some really big values. We wanted the culture to be really inclusive. We wanted everyone to have a real sense of belonging within the All Black environments. It didn't matter where your heritage or culture was from, whether you're from the Pacific Islands, we had Australians, we had guys from England, part of the culture. So we wanted to celebrate who they were as well. We wanted to enhance them as as not only rugby players, but first and foremost as people. All of a sudden we had this culture that really cared about the people within the environment, and it was a really powerful environment to be a part of. They recalled a couple of All Blacks that have been out of the environment for a while, and I still remember Norm Maxwell and Anton Oliver, who'd been key All Blacks for long periods of time, and they had a bit of absence from the team for a couple of years, and we were preparing for that first test match on tour after all the work that had gone in from the Tri-Nations to the end of year tour, and to see them come back into the environment and receive their jersey, or the All Black jersey again, and to see the emotion, the tears, how much it meant to them, really knew that the environment that we were building was a really strong and powerful one. Obviously, we went on and had a fantastic end of year tour, a lot of success in 2005, and I feel like that was the fundamental shift in the culture that is even lived today. A lot of it is off the back of the work that the management and some of the key leaders like Richie McCaw, Tana Rumanga, that really helped drive the culture that the team lives today.
I wondered about, what kind of mark, like you made your mark on the international stage and in that All Black team, but what kind of mark did it leave on you as a person and sort of things that you carry through to your everyday life? Because I think you talked about it in your book, like about why confidence and self-belief are nothing without humility and a beginner's mindset. Like that's kind of what I'm hearing you talking about with that shift in culture.
Yeah, it was. It was just such a really professional environment to be a part of. But at the same time, there were some really key values that we lived each day. And one of them is around humility. Actually being grateful for the position that you're in. So yes, we're international rugby players. We get a lot of things given to us, but we need to continually remain grateful for the opportunity and the moment that we're living. So little things like, if we left the team room at a hotel, it was a bit of a mess, the players like Kevin Mialamus would be up in the front of the bus telling guys, this is not All Black standards. We need to put our rubbish away. Do not leave rubbish on the bus. Same as, the change room after a game, once the game's finished, making sure that, we clean all the strapping tape, all the mud, and we leave the change room in the way that we got it. And just little, we do it naturally as Kiwis anyway, but it's really important that the players are driving those values and humility. And I think it wasn't just the All Black team, it was led by Steve Chu, the CEO at the time. And I still remember after every good game that I'd have would be at the aftermatch function, and he'd always just come and kick me on my feet, just kick me. I was like, well, first time he did, I was like, what are you doing, Chu? He goes, I'm just making sure that your feet are still on the ground. It was just just a little symbol of, okay, you're an All Black, great game, well done, let's not get ahead of yourself. And that happened early in my career, and to live in an environment where we spend a lot of time on, making sure we don't take things for granted. We spend time on, thinking about other people, have a real sense of, humility, don't get ahead of ourselves, and just, strive for greatness at the same time. It really builds you up as a person. So some of the values around sort of humility, work ethic, resilience, performing under pressure are things that I'm just so grateful for that I've learned through being an All Black for 13 years, that I've taken into, the next chapter in my life. We're actually constantly making sure I'm spending time with, my high school friends, the guys that knew me before I was rugby, because they're the guys that keep me grounded and down to earth. Making sure I spend time every single night writing in my gratitude book of things that I'm thankful for. So some really important, values that I learned through playing in what I think is the best, culture around the All Black environment. And, that's why I'm pretty passionate now, even though I have finished playing, is wanting to share and just use sort of my knowledge and experience that I've learned through being a professional rugby player for close to 20 years to just give back. give back to whether it's kids, children, underprivileged children, just use sport and rugby in particular to give back to people in need.
I know what you mean about you being humble. Like I heard that after that 2005 game against the Lions in Wellington, was that Test 2?
Yep.
You didn't even think you had that good of a game. You scored 33 points, mate.
Oh, yeah, I was living in the moment, to be honest, and there's some games you just go into a state of flow and you're always striving for the perfect performance. And that game was just, looking back at it, it was quite unique and special in some of the things that I was able to do and achieve, but I was just in this state of flow where everything was calm. I don't know, the game seemed to have slowed down a little bit. I just felt like I was in full control. I was calm, I was clear, really decisive. But I walked off the field and I didn't realise how special of a game it was. I thought, man, that's awesome. After the week that Tāna Umanga, our captain, had been bagged by the British media, this game was for Tāna. So I'm really proud that we can wrap up the series for our captain, for our country, and secure the series. So I walked off the field really proud, knew I'd had a pretty good game. And I walked into the media scrum and they wanted to interview me. So I went straight into the media and they started talking about, oh, wow, the perfect performance. And I was like, nah, because I missed a kick. I remember I missed one kick and that's the one that I remember of the whole game. So it wasn't a perfect performance, but they were like, oh, do you know how many points you scored? I was like, no, could someone tell me? 33, it's a record. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. It was a pretty good game, but it's more about the team. We secured the series. This is amazing. Went into the change room, sit next to Ma Nonu all the time. We always have a competition to see who gets the most text messages. And whoever gets the most text messages had a better game. So it's always a bit of competition. But then my phone just started going off. I started getting like hundreds of messages. And that's when it really hit home. I was like, okay, this game is a little bit different to the usual games. And I guess, when you're playing against the calibre of, the Lions, that obviously only happens here in New Zealand once every 12 years, that's when it kind of really sunk in about how unique and special, that moment was. But at the same time, it wasn't about me. It was about the All Blacks, securing that series after only 2 Test matches, which was, a pretty proud moment.
We could go on and on all day talking about these moments where, you perform absolute, superstar on the bigger stage. I've heard in the All Black environment that success is a poor teacher, and so I wondered if you're one of these players who is kind of drawn more towards thinking about the losses because of the growth that you got from those?
You do naturally focus on your losses, or not so much losses, your learnings. But also one of the most challenging things in sport, or even life in general, it's one thing going from good to great, but how do you go from great to great again? Because after success, whether it's a good game, a World Cup victory, subconsciously you can relax because you put in so much work, you've had so much drive. So to have success after success is one of the most hardest things possible. And I learned it the hard way. So we just talked about the second Test match against the Lions, 2005. I was getting accolades, text messages, great write-ups in the paper. This 10 out of 10 performance, and I couldn't do anything wrong. I didn't play the third Test match. I popped my AC joint near the end of the second Test match, so I missed the third Test. My next game was against South Africa, in South Africa, one of the most hostile environments. So you think about a South African forward pack wanting to just kill the All Blacks, in particular this guy who's been in the paper far too much. Had one of the worst performances in the black jersey I've ever had. And it brought me right back down to earth because subconsciously I relaxed. I started reading a little bit of my own press. I thought that I was better than I was. So I needed help. And that's when you had the incredible support of people like Gilbert Anoka to really help you live in the moment, focus, control your mind, forget about outcome, focus on process. So that was one of the sort of biggest learnings, was how to have success after success. So yes, you talk about some really key moments in my career and big games. The ones that I'm really proud about is the ones where I'm able to have good games in concession, you know, like great game backed up by an even better game by another good game. So having that consistency. And this happened in 2011. So we've gone from a good team to a great team. So all of a sudden we're world champions, something we haven't been able to do in 24 years. And we're a great team, #1 team in the world. They've done something that the All Blacks have not done in a long time. Historically, once a team wins a World Cup, their next year is poor, okay? Because like I talked about, subconsciously they relax. When the going gets tough, they think, oh, it doesn't really matter because we won the World Cup last year, so we're not going to go to the as darker places as we did the year before because we were desperate. All of a sudden you're not desperate. So we wanted to just take that part of history out of the equation. We don't want a poor 2012, 13, 14. We wanted to go from a great team, which we'd earned, to an even better team, an even greater team. So going from great to great. So that was what was driving us. And we had some incredible learnings from 2007 to 11 around controlling our minds. Red to blue, Kerry Evans came in, did some incredible work. So we felt like we had that, but what we were missing to really drive us was a purpose, a team purpose. You know, I've talked about my personal purpose, wanting to not be an All Black, but an All Black great, but this team purpose that we came up with. And I still remember we were down in Clearwater Resort in Christchurch at a leaders meeting. It was the first leaders meeting after being sort of World Cup champions. It was early 2012. We were there with management and we're trying to work out, well, what's going to stop us from having a poor year this year? How do we aspire to greatness? And we needed a really strong, powerful purpose. And I still remember to this day, Steve Hansen goes, I've got it. To me, the most dominant team in the history of world rugby. That's our vision. And I immediately thought, as a humble Kiwi, man, we can't be saying things like that, you know, like, but then you realize that a personal purpose or a vision, it's not something to talk about in the media. It's not something, that you talk about in every interview and things like that. It's actually something that drives you within. So we'd have that vision sitting in our team room in the hotels. You know, I used to write it in my book, but all of a sudden it gave you a purpose. Like, okay, well, what does a player that's striving to be a part of the most dominant team in the history of world rugby need to do? So once you had buy-in from the team, all of a sudden they had this new energy of wanting to be a part of this environment. And the key with this part is the learning that you get through this is, it's not about just winning the next game. It's not about just having a successful season. It's not about just going back to back in World Cups. This is a big, long vision. And to be honest, you never actually achieve it. You never get to the top of the mountain and put a flag in and go, right, we're the most dominant team in the history of world rugby. If you get into the conversation, then you know that you've done something well throughout that 10-year period. So that was what was driving us post-2011, and that's, I think, a big part of the reason that we had success after success. So we had a great 2012 season. We went on to be the #1 side in the world for, I think it was almost 9 years. We achieved a lot of special things, from Bledisloe Cups to back-to-back World Cup wins. You know, being the first ever All Black side to win a World Cup outside of New Zealand, to be the first team ever to win back-to-back World Cups. And a lot of it was around our purpose. And now that I've finished playing and looking back on my career, that's one of the most biggest driving factors in terms of achieving greatness and being the best is both personal purpose and collective purpose. You can't have one without the other. So the beauty and the synergy with my personal purpose, it would fit within the All Black purpose. And a lot of the All Black purpose, I've just talked about the one from 2011 onwards, to be the most dominant team in the history of world rugby, will strive to be an All Black great, fits within that perfectly. You know, so there's a great synergy there. Earlier on, 2004, it was, you know, it's the All Black jersey. It's not yours. You're just a custodian of the jersey. You know, you represent the people that have gone before you, and when you give the jersey back, when you finish your career, your mission is to enhance the legacy that's gone before you. So that was the team's vision. Does that align with wanting to be an All Black great? Perfect synergy. So between your personal purpose and the team purpose, that is what was driving me every day while I was part of the All Blacks. And you know, when you're a bit tired, you're not feeling well, maybe a bit sore from the game, you know, and your mind's telling you, it doesn't really matter if you don't do that recovery session, or maybe just do 2 kicking sessions this week instead of 3. When you think about your purpose, All Black great, or the most dominant team in history of rugby, what does those players do? You roll your sleeves up and you do them. That's greatness.
One of the other things I'm fascinated by is the way you were able to harness emotions. Like you talk about 211, you know, you do your groin, can't take part in the rest of the tournament. You are genuinely happy for the team when they win the final, but initially you thought that was going to be your last World Cup. But when you saw the success that they had, you automatically just said to yourself, I'm going again. I want to carry on for another 4 years. Like you used it, you harnessed it to drive you through to 215. And I've even heard you talk about using it like when you were going to rehab a neck injury. Like you signed up with the Japanese team to put a goal in front of you so that it helped you with your rehab. Just when did you learn to do that?
I think the man that I am today, and even the player that I was out on the field, and particularly near the end of my career, weren't because of the success that I was having on the field. It was more the setbacks, the disappointments, and dealing with those, you know, that sadness and dealing with those emotions that come with that make you an even stronger person. And 2011, it's a great example because, you know, I'd been the vice captain behind Richie for about 3 years and never actually got to captain the All Blacks because whenever he wouldn't play, I wouldn't play for whatever reason, but I got named to be the All Black captain. And the last round robin game of the World Cup in 2011, I thought 2011 was going to be my last World Cup. I wasn't sure, you know, what the future looked like, but you know, when I had such a serious injury in the captain's run before the last round robin game, and then my World Cup is taken away from me, I was distraught. I was a firm believer that things happen for a reason. You know, I injured my Achilles 2 years earlier, and that was my body telling me to slow down. But all of a sudden, such a serious injury at such a key moment of my career, Rugby World Cup at home, in front of friends and family, when I knew that we had put in so much work, I finally felt like we were ready to break the hoodoo of finally winning a World Cup after 24 years. And to get that personally taken away from me through an injury was tough. You know, I wasn't a very nice person to be around as I dealt with my emotions. You know, a lot of tears, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness. You know, I had a great support around me with team, management, and partner, friends, family. But then I realised that, okay, well, what's my personal purpose? To be an All Black great. Wasn't All Black great doing a situation like this? Well, he fights for another 4 years. He always said an All Black great has to play for longer than 10 years, so I need to continue to play. An All Black great also rehabs his injury better than anyone has rehabbed this injury before. So I'm going to come back even stronger than I was before. Was an All Black great? That's right, he sets goals. So I had to reset new goals. In 2015 was a new goal of mine, and wanting to be there and play a pivotal role in that World Cup. But also realised one of the strongest values of being an All Black is to making sure that no individual is greater than the team. So here I was sulking, hurting, and I wasn't really thinking about the team. So I was like, right, I need to put my emotions aside for a second, and I need to help the team.
Easier said than done?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and there'd be times where I was going out and helping the likes of Colin Slade, who came into the number 10 jersey. Unfortunately, he got injured. So you had Aaron Crude, so Crudes came in, and then, obviously this fantastic story of Beaver coming in, Steve Donald. So I knew that I had to help guys like that, share my experience to help get them up to speed with the play, that works with the likes of the Nines. Pity was now goal kicking as well, so just to try and breed some confidence into him as well. So I needed to be part of the team and just put my disappointment to a side. Don't get me wrong, it was hard because I'd then go to my room or go home and I'd deal with my emotions. But something that I learned through these setbacks, something to help really build your resilience to come back stronger is to not hide those emotions. So yes, I was in tears, sadness, angry. So my wife knows when I have disappointment in my life just to leave me alone. As I deal with my emotions, I'm not a very nice person to be around, but there needs to be an end point. And for me, it was always 24 hours. So in Wellington, I sulked for 24 hours, and then I was like, right, time to flick the switch. I reset new goals. I started to put the team first, so I went out and started to help the team whenever I could. And then sort of one of the most proudest sort of years or seasons that I had was 2012. Kind of went under the radar a little bit, but we had a really successful year. I started playing some really good rugby again. I'm not sure if I deserved it or not, probably not, but I got named World Rugby Player of the Year in 2012. So if you rewind 12 months earlier when I was in the hotel room, absolutely devastated with such a serious injury, to 12 months. A lot of it was the way that I dealt with that injury, through grieving and dealing with my emotions, to resetting goals, to having structure to make sure that I was able to achieve those goals and grow as a person and as a player over that next 12-month period. It was a really big learning for me. So a lot of the success that I have had has been off the back of learnings from disappointments or failure or unsuccessful campaigns or losses. And that's the beauty of sport, I feel, is the learnings that you get from moments like that make you even stronger as a team and even stronger as a person.
The All Black environment is a beautiful one. There's brotherhood, lifelong friendships. You talk about the people that supported you through those moments, and pushing on from 211 to 215, you've talked about you did sort of stumble along the way, and then again, someone from the All Black environment, Wayne Smith, stepped in when you needed it most.
Yeah, it was a pretty special moment. So I did that in 2015, but just to rewind, 2012 was a fantastic season. This is all good. I'm walking towards my goal of being a part of another Rugby World Cup. That was a goal of mine to be there in 2015. I was going to be 33. So if you're still playing your 30s, a lot of people kind of looking at you a little bit funny, going, righto, okay, Koro, time to go, mate, time to retire. Your time's up. So I got a lot of that through that time and when I was playing in my 30s, but I had this vision and direction I wanted to go to. But then in 2013, my body started falling apart. I started getting lots of little calf injuries, a lot of hamstring tears, and I just couldn't string any games in a row. So I lost form. Obviously, we're pretty hard critics here in New Zealand, so there was a lot of speculation and doubt about whether I was the man for the job. Moving forward, there were a couple of great players in Bodes and Crudes, coming through. Slady was a lot of competition, for my position. I knew that I had a sabbatical that I was going to take in early 2014, and I used that time to work really closely with Nick Gill and Pete Gallagher. So we would meet on a monthly basis, basically to rebuild my body. I've been playing for, 10 years now, and I played a lot of rugby in that 10 years, a lot of serious injuries, and I just needed a reset, to rebuild my body back up again, to get the most out of the back end of my career. But it was really tough. There were times through 2013 that I wanted to retire, and I'd often go home to my wife, Honor, and say, look, I'm done. My body's telling me that I'm done. I think it's time to hang up the boots. She would encourage me to to just keep going, keep pushing through it, and then sure enough, the next day I'd feel good again. And then the next day, go into a bit of a hole. Nah, this is too tough, gonna retire. But I knew I had that conditioning, that sabbatical where I could rebuild my body again. Came back and played end of Super Rugby, got injured, broke my leg. And I was like, okay, this is my body telling me I'm done. So 2013, 2014 was some of the most challenging years of my career in terms of injuries, form, not being able to string more than a couple of games together. I only played 2 test matches in 2014. So man, we've got a Rugby World Cup next year. Nothing's guaranteed. I don't deserve to be part of the team. You know, I just haven't played enough rugby. There are a lot of younger, you know, more sort of fit players that are, you know, that can actually play the game and not get injured like I was. So there's some real self-doubt going on in my mind. And to be honest, I didn't think I was going to be part of that World Cup team in 2015. So I went back to Super Rugby season early because I wanted some really good time to get some conditioning under the belt before the season started. Now, at the start of the Super Rugby season, Wayne Smith flew down to Christchurch for a meeting with me. I was like, oh, that's nice. And he's been a mentor and a close friend, and obviously, an All Black coach for a long time. And he just sat me down and he pulled out his laptop, and he showed this package that he put together, and it was me at my best. So me attacking the line, me getting up off the line defensively, making tackles, some kicking videos, some me directing play. Basically, he bred this confidence in me because he told me that he believes I can get back to the same player as I'm looking at on the screen. And before that meeting, I never thought that I could be that player again.
Are we talking about like Dan Carter from the early days?
All through, right up and from 2012, the Lions series,
wow.
Parts of, some of the games I played in out here at Eden Park against the French in the Rugby World Cup before I got injured. So there was a montage of clips from all through my career, not just the younger ones. And he looked me in the eye and said, I believe in you. I believe you can get back to being this player on the screen. And when you got someone of his caliber, I walked out of the meeting and was like, right, I'm gonna prove him right. If he believes in me, I need to believe in myself. So I started to string a few Super Rugby games together, got a lot of confidence in the body, and the All Black season came around, and all I needed to do was go out there and play. I had the goals, I had the vision, I had the disappointment of what happened in 2011. Man, you can always go back to 2007 and 3 as well. So I had all this experience. It just felt like it was all built, for that season in 2015. But whether I would have had to have the self-confidence to be able to achieve that without that, special meeting with Smithy. So I'm forever grateful for him taking the time to do that. And obviously 2015, myself, but more importantly, the team achieved that year was something pretty special.
2015, you get through, you're there in the final. You talk about you've never felt so in control. You're seeing the game, you're reading it, you just feel like you can't do anything wrong. It's kind of a pity that it had to end there, like in terms of international rugby, but I guess so many players would love to know how to get to that moment.
Oh man, it's a journey to get to that moment. You can't just click your fingers and get there. And I've talked about a couple of really difficult setbacks, World Cup disappointments, and being knocked out in the semi-final in 2003, being part of the worst performing All Black side in the history of World Cups. In 2007, getting knocked out in the quarterfinal, the injuries, the 2011 World Cup. I just felt like 2013 and 14, when I wanted to retire, all of those moments built up to 2015 for me, and the fact that I knew that was my last game in the black jersey just made me felt like it was meant to happen. The beauty with sport, though, nothing's guaranteed. And Unfortunately, in sport, not everyone gets that fairy tale finish. But for me, I just had this feeling because of all the disappointment and also the team and culture that we'd created from 2004 that we've talked about, but also the vision and purpose of going from great to great again in 2011. I felt like I was just part of such a unique team, culture and environment, and all I had to do was just go out there and play. So personally, it was a really proud moment to finish and get my fairy tale finish, but when I look around and I see some of my best mates that were finishing on that day as well, guys that have played around 100 test matches or more, all finishing their journey in the black jersey, and to be able to finish it on such a high as well was a really special moment, and being a part of that 2015 team sitting there in the changing room, and you just knew that even though the All Blacks were losing a lot of key players, a lot of really experienced All Blacks, you knew that they were just going to keep rolling and keep going on. And what they achieved the following year, the following 24 months after that All Black win in 2015 in the final is a really testament of the culture and the environment that the All Blacks have. It's very sort of unique and special, and it's just such a privilege for me to be part of it for so long.
Well, it was an amazing journey, and you definitely left the jersey in a better place. And so we thank you for your time today, Dan.
Thanks, mate.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.